Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to a breaking news brief. Okay, the way I have to produce my videos means that this news actually came out yesterday, but for me, that's still pretty breaking news. Let's just go ahead and dive right in. You might remember that back in February, when we had one Power Rangers headline after another, that one of them was about Hasbro becoming the new master toy producer for Power Rangers. You may also remember this little tidbit tucked into the deal that I mentioned in my headlines video. In recognition of this investment, during a period of time after Hasbro becomes the master toy licensee, the arrangement between the parties provides Saban Brands and Hasbro with the opportunity to initiate Hasbro's purchase of the Power Rangers property. Well, they've done it. I'm absolutely serious. Yesterday morning, Saban Brands and Hasbro announced that Hasbro is indeed purchasing the entire Power Rangers franchise. As a matter of fact, they're purchasing all intellectual property and content rights from Saban Brands. To quote Zordon from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, the Zords, the weapons, all of it. Now, this news does not come as a surprise to anybody who did remember that little tidbit from the toy deal, although it did confuse a bunch of people who didn't remember it or didn't know about it, who spent the morning wondering why Power Rangers fans seemed to be reacting to what they saw as old news. What is surprising about all this is the timing. You see, the contract for the Master Toy license specifically said that Hasbro would have this option once they took over the Master Toy license in 2019. The time between now and then was set to be something of a kind of boring, middling waiting period for Power Rangers fans, waiting for Hasbro to take over the toys, and then seeing what they did as far as purchasing the franchise. That is still the case with the toys. However, it seems that Saban and Hasbro had decided to skip their wedding date and just elope in Las Vegas instead. From the press release, we know that the value of this deal is $522 million. $22 million of that is what Hasbro has already paid Saban to get the Master Toy license. Hasbro is now pitching Saban another $500 million, with a little more than half of that being the issuing of common stock, which, as Ranger Liz pointed out in her video, go give that a watch as well, means that you can soon buy a share of Hasbro stock and, in a very technical, kind of, sort of fashion, own a very small piece of the Power Rangers franchise. This deal is not yet complete. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, just that there's a timetable to these kinds of things. The deal is going to need regulatory and legal approval, I believe primarily because it does involve the issuing of stock, meaning that the Securities and Exchange Commission is going to need to take a look at this. That approval is supposed to come by this June, according to reports. So, what does all of this mean? It's actually incredibly hard to say right now. When you're discussing the Power Rangers franchise as it stands right now, there are three primary aspects to it: the TV show, the movie franchise, and the outlying stuff. I mean, besides the toys, of course, but that was already going to Hasbro, so nothing's really changed there. So let's start things off with the TV show. I don't feel like a lot is going to change there in the short term. I mean, surely that Saban's is going to come off of that brand new logo. I'm betting that the logo was actually designed to have a version without it, seeing as this was a strong possibility. And if you look at it, actually, it kind of seems like part of the design choice was to make it really easy to just pop that right off. But as I've said previously, 2019 already felt like something of a transitional, experimental kind of year for the Power Rangers franchise. A toy-light Sentai is getting adapted on an odd-numbered Nick contract. Pre-production has already started on Beast Morphers, nothing that couldn't be undone and changed at this extremely early point. I mean, we don't even have a cast yet. But I'm betting that Hasbro isn't going to change all that much and instead will choose to focus some extra time on either 2020 or 2021, depending on whether or not Beast Morphers gets a super season. Speaking of those super seasons, by the way, I think Nickelodeon has the clout to ask Nick for some bending on their single season episode limit rule. I took a look at some of the Transformers cartoon series that Hasbro is responsible for, and their season episode numbers tend to run in the high 20s, around 26 to 28 episodes a season. That's not the 40 that most of us were hoping to get back to, but it is closer to the 32 that we saw in the Disney era. Especially, I think Hasbro can ask for this, seeing as they have a pretty significant bargaining chip. Their own channel. Well, sort of. Hasbro owns a minority stake in Discovery Family, which you may remember used to be known as The Hub. Hasbro would likely be inclined to have Power Rangers air on that channel anyway, since they're involved in the control of it. But I think that they could be convinced to leave Power Rangers where it is on Nickelodeon, not rocking the boat too much and leaving Power Rangers on the most popular children's network on television. If Nickelodeon is willing to work with them, bend some things a little bit, and help them produce a better product overall. This may just entirely be wishful thinking on my part, but I really do see and predict that episode limit for Power Rangers getting increased. Or Power Rangers may end up changing the channel. Alright, let's move on to the movie franchise. This move to Hasbro is going to be a wonderful thing for the Power Rangers franchise in a number of different ways. However, there is one aspect of it that I think some people are going to see as pretty bad news. It now becomes, and I really cannot stress this enough, heroes, severely unlikely that we see a sequel to the 2017 Lionsgate Power Rangers movie. For one, Hasbro produces their own movies, usually if not often in partnership with Paramount, so Lionsgate would be out on this anyway. And number two, anytime a major company takes over a movie franchise from another major company, they're going to want to put their own stamp on it. You'll notice that when Sony and Marvel made a deal for the rights to Spider-Man, a reboot movie was made almost right away. I do have to say, I think it's kind of sad that we're not going to see the full potential of that particular story and movie franchise. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think getting a sequel to that movie with those amazing characters already established that gave us more action, especially a Green Ranger storyline, as most of us figured would be the case, would have been successful enough to cement the film as a movie franchise. But hey, at the very least, at least the actors in the film got the boost from it that we could have expected, meaning primarily the Rangers. Dacre Montgomery went on to be cast in the Netflix hit series Stranger Things. Naomi Scott has been cast as Princess Jasmine in the new live-action Aladdin remake. Becky G just released a new single, Sin Pijamas, that's doing incredibly well. Ludi Lin has a role in the upcoming Aquaman movie, and R.J. Cyler was in the MTV Scream series. Besides, thinking about it, the greatest service of this film to the franchise as a whole now might be that Hasbro has a great template to look at for how to craft amazing characters in this kind of a story, and to avoid the film being too talky and not featuring enough Power Rangers action. But I mean, I don't know. I wonder if Hasbro is any good at creating a gigantic, long-running feature film franchise about a story that involves giant transforming robots. Mark my words, heroes. Hasbro will make a new Power Rangers movie. I'd say within 5 years or so. And they will have every single intention of it becoming a gigantic franchise. The outside stuff breaks down into two categories that Power Rangers fans have become incredibly passionate about. The Boom Studios comic books and Power Rangers Hyperforce, the tabletop Power Rangers RPG that was streamed by Hyper RPG on Twitch for 25 sessions that I have recently just caught up to within single digits of catching up on reviewing. As far as the comics, I have to say I don't really see too much happening. Yes, I know Hasbro has been pretty firmly partnered with IDW Publishing for adaptations of their works into comics. However, they have worked with other companies before, and when you have a company producing a comic for your franchise that, I don't know, let's just say has sold out 4 consecutive issues of first prints, I think you don't mess with that kind of success. Hyperforce, however, is a far trickier matter. You see, Hasbro owns a company called Wizards of the Coast, who is responsible for all things Dungeons and Dragons. Now, at first, that seems like a match made in heaven, and you might even remember that Ali Gonino, who is on the Dungeons and Dragons Twitch stream Girls, Guts, and Glory, guested on Power Rangers Hyperforce as Lady Guinevere, and Wizards of the Coast seemed perfectly fine with that. However, since Dungeons & Dragons does officially stream on Twitch, do they see HyperRPG as something of a competitor? And if they do, would they be inclined to help that company that they're in competition with produce a show from one of their properties, Power Rangers, that could draw viewers away from the official Dungeons & Dragons Twitch channel? Hasbro helping produce Hyperforce Season 2 would mainly be an incredible show of good faith to the fan base, especially since it's likely that they would have to at least partially fund the show. However, we are talking about a very popular story with characters that have been fleshed out already and are very popular with the fans. Considering the fact that you already have that pre-built fan base in there, you could decide to make the decision to support Hyperforce Season 2, and then make that decision profitable by producing and putting out for sale things that fans have practically been demanding to spend their money on. Zords, action figures, the Hyperforce Morpher, and most importantly of all, an official rulebook and game set so you can play the game at home. I would say that there's a fairly decent chance that Hasbro pushes Hyperforce forward to a Season 2, especially since I've seen some people point out that they've actually been pretty collaborative as far as Dungeons & Dragons games played on other channels. I would say more, though, that there's an even better chance, a really good chance, that the success of Hyperforce inspires Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast to produce their own Power Rangers RPG that would then be streamed on the official Dungeons & Dragons Twitch channel. And I think that's really all there is to say about this. I'm actually surprised that this video got as long as it did. A testament to my ability to ramble. The truth is, there's just a whole lot right now that we do not know. The impact on the TV show, the possibility of another movie, the impact to the Boom Comics and to Power Rangers Hyperforce. All up in the air right now. That's kind of the scary thing about change, actually. You can never be sure if it's going to be good or bad before it happens. Well, that is going to do it for this little breaking news brief video. Thank you folks so much as always for watching. If you have any questions about the story or just have some comments about what you think about the situation, make sure to leave those down in the comments below. I'll be engaging with you folks, answering comments as I usually do. Also, for better or for worse, you may have noticed this is the first video where I've stepped into a new position in the middle of the screen, officially doing away with any sort of on-screen graphics or screen caps, so feel free to let me know what you thought of that and how this video was produced. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to see all my videos and ring that bell. Get your notifications set up so you can be notified of whenever I post brand new videos, even if they're the super quick breaking news videos just like this. My regular content is coming, by the way. I'll be working on other things today, so hopefully posting them today, but as always, we will see about that. And if you really like the work that I do on this channel and want to toss me any little bit of financial support, you can head over to my digital tip jar at digitaltipjar.com/orangerangervid. Toss whatever little financial support you think is appropriate in there, and I'd appreciate anything that lands in there. By the way, I am exploring channel funding options, like I have Digital Tip Jar already, but Ko-fi, Patreon, etc. If you have any suggestions or comments on that, let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, heroes, and as always, may the power protect you. Big wavy salute now that I don't have a screen cap to knock over. Well, the demands of how I produce my videos means this new... You might remember... But as I've said, 2019 already felt like something of an experimental, transitional year, if you think about it. I didn't, obviously. Going forward, speaking of super... I feel like Hasbro can ask this from Nickelodeon because they have a pretty significant bargain... 26 to 28 episodes a season. Ow! And the number of episodes that... Okay, alrighty. And their episode limits is a great thing for Power Rangers in a lot of different regards. But their one is... after having these established... Becky G just released a new hit single, Sin Pijamas, that's doing very well. And the other guy is in the thing. The outside stuff breaks down into two categories that Power Rangers fans have become incredibly impassionate about. Impassionate. However, that could possibly draw viewers away from the official Dungeons & Dragons channel. An official rulebook and game set to play the game with at home. Morpher, and I want to say that because I'm a Morpher guy. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see all of my videos and ring that bell, get your notification icon set up so that you know to get your notification icon. Okay, we're splitting that from